Hey, it's Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 22nd of November, the 29th of November. You know, there was a video that I could have given a not good to. I couldn't even finish it though. Not like it was that bad, but I wasn't into it. I wasn't feeling it. Didn't have good vibes. I wouldn't have been in the right headspace to give it proper feedback. So we're just gonna talk about some videos I thought were decent. Yeah, you're pretty good. Yeah, but the first couple, I will say, I had like particular things that I was like, this could be better, or I don't know. But also, I felt bad. There was a couple that like I probably have very little to say technically, but I haven't talked about these channels that much or at all. So I just want to give like, you know, I do want to give them something. It's like, hey, they made a video and I watched it. You know what I mean? And the first of those is, well, it's because she asked nicely. And yeah, it's like, what, did I just have to ask nicely and you'll review it? Like, yeah. Well, I do have something I did watch and I do have something to say. From Fukuchi Twins, The Marvelous Feat of To Your Eternity, 14-minute video that they worked real hard on. And they also got like a copyright thing on it and they had to re-upload it and things like that. You know, I like the tone of this being very, very serious and like, this really affected me, guys. And the personal anecdote at the beginning of kind of getting into it with like how they've been just kind of passively consuming a lot of media at kind of a rapid pace, and then not remembering or recollecting a lot of it by the end of it. I do actually relate to that a little bit. At least I've been feeling that way sometimes about some of the shows I've watched this past year. A lot of them I've liked a lot, but like, yeah, I can agree. There's a lot of periods where it's like I'm not really paying attention, or I'm zoning out or whatever, and it's, you know, I don't get the full impact of that sort of thing. But I like the context to like building that up towards, no, this is actually something special, something really different and out there. Made me cry. There's only 6 pieces of media that's made her cry and stuff like that. Although I would have liked to know the precise moment and maybe building up the context and maybe centering the video on that idea and how it's like, oh, that I should take this more, especially like the first episode you described a little more. The bulk of the video, I think, kind of goes into the whole series and kind of makes it sort of like a story-based review. And that was the kind of when I was kind of checked out of it personally, and I was like, a lot of it kind of flew past me. But I really was latched on to those initial few minutes of like personal anecdotes and why is it enough to make a video out of this and not just for the sake of it, right? Because I think a lot of us, right, they're making videos, it has to be something that's we care enough and brings it up to the service to the point of writing a script, recording it, getting the you know what I mean? It's more than just passively watch, oh, that's a thought and I could just tweet it, right? So having that that gravitas of like, this is why I'm making the video, like to the point where I actually want to talk about it, I think was good. And then the actual talking about it, I thought was just fine. I can't say too much about it, although I do remember one small like audio spike problem that was really bad. You should definitely like go like that I think that's happened to me once before on like a main upload, or at least on Digest or something, where the audio, there's something that happened to it or something weird with the video or something. Even if you've exported it before and you think it's fine, it is good to like double check and stuff like that. There is one spike somewhere in the middle that like, it's just like this, I don't even know what to describe it really. Be sure to like catch on to those sometimes, but it happens. It's not a big deal. But yeah, like yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about it, honestly. I do think that like zeroing in on a couple particular elements would have helped this video a bit more. Not like making like a section or like this is section or something, but more so that like, I don't know, having a particular direction and building towards that point. Like, what is the marvelous feat? The fact that it kind of made you care or got you to cry or something like that. Having more of a clear focus, I think, would help this. I don't wholly know if it warranted the length, and it's only 14 minutes compared to some of the others that are even longer than that. But yeah, that's just kind of my sense on it. I like the, yeah, I don't want to repeat myself really, but yeah, I did enjoy the video, and I'm happy you sent it. So I checked out Osoweeb's video on how I fell in love with Sunny Boy. I don't know if I think I may have talked about Osoweeb's Gundam video. I think so. I don't quite remember. But yeah, I also like the similar thing of like the premise of like, so I was looking through Mal and I found this show and whatever. And I think it is a little too short for me to really get a full sense of what you're talking about. And I think it kind of zooms through the feelings and the things you were taking away from it and what the actual meat of the video really. I think it just kind of states the thing and it doesn't I don't know, it kind of zips by really. I like the little touches here and there of like the show itself and the aesthetics and the sound palettes and things like that, as well as like having a better context of the making of the show itself, with the character designer and director and things like that. But I do think the length kind of weakens it a little bit. I do think it's just sort of like, oh, that's it, or it kind of, yeah, I didn't get to it. And not a lot of it sticks with me either in that way. I would also, I don't, maybe I said this in the Gundam video, or like, I don't want to be too like whatever. I feel like there were some moments where the audio can be tightened up a bit in terms of either re-recording or like cutting out some of the gaps that feel a little awkward, or just some stutters and things like that. Now, like, it's interesting. I had this with my Slam Dunk video. There was that moment where I'm like, it turns out to be the series director for Slam Dunk. The recording of that was me going, was the series director for Slam Dunk, and I have like that for Slam. I have like that little gap in the middle there, and I thought that could lend it to being a little more natural, or adding to that taken aback kind of feeling. The more I was thinking that, though, I was like, this feels a little awkward or something. Let me see if I can, maybe if I don't want to go through the effort of re-recording it, but let me see if I can like stitch the audio to make it a little more seamless, so it looks like I'm saying the sentence like nicely, but just a little like paying a little more attention to the audio, I think would help with this. Cutting it up in places so that it's more tight, I guess. But again, it wasn't like a huge turnoff or anything like that. I think it is just like unconventional to hear for people who watch a lot of YouTube videos, I suppose, where like the narration is either very obviously unscripted or or scripted but like really tightly packed, I guess. Yeah, but otherwise I enjoyed the video. It was nice. Anormie, yeah, the 2017 anime so legendary no one noticed. I don't think I've talked about his channel before, and I really like the opening scene. I actually got like Best Guy Ever vibes from it, where like, you remember how like he used to have like the him filming himself and stuff like that, in like his girl and Logon video with him in the yard or whatever. It got those kind of quirky, realistic vibes, I guess. That moment really stands out to me. And he spends like the first 2 minutes not really about Akka, but about like what's happening now and just kind of general vibes, I guess. I don't know, it just felt like he wasn't talking as much about the subject at hand. And at first I was like, yeah, get to what you're talking about, right? But at the same time, it's only 5 minutes and it's sort of just like, here's a video, you know what I mean? It doesn't, I think that was okay, and actually kind of lent it a little bit of an advantage to it, I thought. And then when he actually started talking about it, I'm kind of mid on Akka. I saw it when it came out, and I wasn't into it. I just didn't like. I think it was because it was the third consecutive year of me watching anime on a week-to-week basis, and it just doesn't do it for me seeing shows in that form. And also, I don't know if Akka was like the kind of show I was into at the time. I do appreciate it and like it on an aesthetic level, and the things that Anormie talks about. But I think like talking about it, I was like, yeah, whatever. So the actual talk about it was decent. I just was not as like enthralled, and I was actually more enthralled when you weren't talking about Akka, because I do think his sense of humor is really good. I think his use of memes, you know what I mean, with like, I think a lot of people have that Eden or Demolition D kind of style. But bringing it their own way, I suppose. And like I just like his humor. I like the personal perspective and stuff, and his general vibes. Like I would watch more videos from him, just on not even based on what the video is about, which is a really good sign for a creator. Honestly, it's actually a really good sign that like you're going there more for the person more than like the value and knowledge and content itself. There is value obviously in the content itself, of course, and channels that just do that. But like to see this person talk about this particular subject is a very particular YouTube-y kind of quality. So I don't know. I liked like seeing his content. Honestly, I thought he was especially the first couple minutes. I think you guys should check it out. I don't know if any of us are, maybe I'm late to the party on him. But yeah, no, I enjoyed this video a good deal. Yumesuke Sutashika, the mangaka. I don't know if I've talked about any of his videos, but he did put out a lot of videos this week, actually. But the one that I actually kind of was interested in was trends that JoJo could have started, which I have an interest in this being like really getting into Shonen Jump stuff, and what series is influenced on what, and the lineage there. And one thing I want to say off the bat before I forget it that I'm thinking of is that he was trying to speculate why JoJo didn't end up having that same impact that Dragon Ball had. Where clearly like the stuff that's in Dragon Ball is in future shonen stuff. And his speculation is that JoJo didn't get an anime until 2012. Yeah. You know, like that's fair. It's not, I don't think it's untrue, but I find it unlikely when we're talking about manga specifically. Like when we're talking about Shonen Jump titles, Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, blah, 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 blah. I don't know if anime really affects it in the same way. Like they're going to read Dragon Ball. That's kind of how they probably found. And I feel like it's weird to assume that the anime affects anything in terms of manga influence. It's like, oh, I saw that in this guy's manga, I'm going to do it in my. Not like I saw the anime adaptation of Dragon Ball Z, and that got me to think of doing tournaments and power systems like this. You know, that I found that a little difficult to believe. But other than that, I think the actual listing of what are the trends that aren't really JoJo's, that are mostly for, and he's pretty much crediting all of it to Dragon Ball, even though it was started. He acknowledges that it was in Kinnikuman and Hokuto no Ken, but they weren't as popular. No, Fist of the North Star is just as popular, at least in Japan, and has just as much of an influence on manga and Shonen Jump titles than Dragon Ball. I disagree with that. I think undervaluing Fist of the North Star is a big mistake. And then but at least he is like also mentioning Kinnikuman, which is a more understandable one because that one wasn't as commercially successful as Fist of the North Star. But yeah, anyway, I do like laying out what were the trends, and he lists all the titles that do this, and then what are the things that JoJo does, that the trends that it could have started. So the things like parts, having your manga be split into parts, which there is one new manga that is doing that, and that is Chainsaw Man, end of part 1. And that it's the same. It's not like it didn't do the same thing as JoJo, where it started directly after, like part 1 and 2 happened almost directly after each other, I believe, like in terms of publication, or maybe there was a few weeks in between, I don't think, but like they were he was just constantly doing JoJo, whereas Chainsaw Man's been about a year now, I think, which is fine. He can take his time. But I do think I agree that I wish that was a trend that was more common with long-running series. Although people could make the argument that it kind of happened with Naruto, maybe with like the time skip in part 2, although that was all one big manga and it doesn't actually split the same way. Although parts, I don't know. It is a weird gray squishy kind of thing. And the different advantages and kind of what makes them good. But I just think it was what I liked about this video is that it's very bare bones and like straight information, and it doesn't really take into any aesthetic. It doesn't show a whole lot of, it just kind of shows pictures of Dragon Ball when he's talking about a tournament, and not like describing or giving the feeling of a tournament, maybe why people would take a tournament from this. I think it's just very bare bones script, listing each one, and that's, and just packing it all into 5.5 minutes, which I think is an advantage. I think there's something kind of nice about that, where there's no fluff, but at the same time, it is a video. Like, this could just be a blog post, but the video component is something that you can use to bolster your point and to make a more lasting impact that like influences other people, convinces them of your argument, makes them want to share with other people potentially, right? It's more of an experience. So I would encourage you to kind of play more with, like, making more of like the video component, I suppose, at least to me. But otherwise, I really like the points and stuff like that. I think it was interesting. Yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed that. RPWPA, The Essence of Life, Funeo Amu. I don't remember if I talked about one of their videos in what is it? November, or the Reddit challenge, maybe. One of those. The username sounds familiar, but they're talking about Funeo Amu here, and I will say, like, on a technical aspect, I would have liked a little more from the visual component. I get it's just clip selection, and it's like, what do you really do with that? I know it can be kind of difficult to feel that out. Although I was noticing that he was pretty much using cross dissolves for a lot of transitions, and there was to the point where one of them, you kind of have to be careful with cross dissolves, because if it bleeds into the next clip, it kind of leaps out, and there's a jump in one of them, in one of the cross dissolves you had here that I noticed. I get it's a nitpick, but like, as someone who makes the, I'm just like, it's like, got you there. Not me got you or something like that. It's more like, if I was to see that, I was in a editing software of me seeing that, I'm like, I have to make sure, So seeing is just to kind of throw the cross dissolve on there. It's like, no, and again, not a big deal. But finding other things to do with the clip selection in particular, I guess. But otherwise, it's a really nice video about Funeo and how much they liked it. Gave it a 10 out of 10 at the end. I'm like, yeah, that's a good show. I like. I don't give it a 10 out of 10 personally, but like, it's a 10 out of 10 in my heart. Where it's like, I really like and respect this show, kind of thing. Yeah, it's a good one. I'm happy you talked about it. Yeah, I think that, like, it was similar to the other videos where 5 minutes was just sort of like, okay, and I don't know. I couldn't grasp onto the full point of it. I like the little observations. I really do. I really like that, like the small things of like liking this aspect and this aspect. But it didn't feel like it was driving to a particular point. It was just more like an excuse to talk about Funeo, and it's like, I like it, 10 out of 10, and like, that's fine, but it doesn't like stick in a person's mind or just further push, or maybe it's a recommendation video type of thing, and maybe you can steer it in that direction of like, I didn't expect to like this show about dictionaries and stuff like that, which you do say, but it's just the video wasn't building towards that point or anything. Not a big deal or anything like that, but yeah, I would suggest with next time, it's sort of like, you want to talk about this thing, find a particular angle to it, so even people who have seen the show and don't need convincing that it's good or whatever, like myself, you dug deeper into it than I did when I just was casually watching it when it came out at the time, and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know that aspect, or oh, I checked out this other thing that most people wouldn't have bothered to check out, and this is the aspect towards it or something. Yeah, I don't know, just further food for thought, I guess. But I did enjoy the video because it's just talking about Funeo, and I like that show. Yeah. Suti Tooti tried out a anime reaction. I don't know if he's done these before. Maybe you have. But he's doing Ranking of Kings, the first episode. Stupid and deaf. Okay. Careful there. I don't know. But I like that he just kind of jumped right into it. Didn't have any preamble or expectations or nothing. It just kind of jumped right into the actual reaction part. And the aspect that's different and unique for it, because otherwise it'd just be kind of like, oh, it's a reaction video or whatever. Which I've done that before. I've just talked about reaction videos that are very plain or whatever. But yeah. But the kind of cool thing about this one was his dynamic with the other people in the voice chat that were watching it with him, his buddies. I really like the dynamic that the few of them have are playing. I don't actually remember how many were there. It's at least 2 people, I think. But like the dynamics and like the kind of riffing on the episode is fun, while ultimately like liking the show. Towards the end, I think it was good. It's a nice balance of kind of like, we're we're kind of watching that. We're not like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess never mind. I guess there wasn't as much of a note, or maybe there wasn't the description. But sorry, that was a little all over the place. Was distracted. But yeah, no, I did enjoy the format, and I think you're actually pretty decent at, some people aren't good at reaction content, right? I don't think I'm very good at it. I think I've tried, and it's and I don't know if there's any out necessarily, but like, yeah, I've tried, and I don't think it really works for me. So I mean, I think it was a good angle, and I enjoyed it. It was a fun romp. AnimeCons TV had an interview with Robert Woodhead, who was the founder and main guy behind AnimeGo, which is a very old and like early licensor of anime, and bringing it to the United States. Really important in the history of it. Also, the guy that helped us get the new negatives for Project Echo, which was great. He didn't mention it in this interview, but I believe it's him that helped us with that. And because he was looking for Maddox, which is the title he's releasing right now. But this was a pretty standard interview. I don't think I got anything too specific out of it, like something really interesting. It's like, when did you first go to cons? When they were invented, I guess. Little things like that. I don't know if the questions were the most insightful, and it was only 18 minutes or so. The audio was just okay. I had to be real sharp, harsh on it, I guess. But like, otherwise, I really liked the fact that you got an interview at all. Getting more of an insight into who Robert Woodhead is as a person, and seeing him talking and interacting, I guess, is actually interesting to me, at least. As someone who I know his context in the history of Western licensing is interesting. But, I had a good time. It was a decent time. I just think, left a little bit to be desired on my end, I guess. But I think especially if you're even remotely interested in this sort of thing, I think it's good. I'm happy he did it. So I was gonna probably have a not good this week, because Bennett put out this other video of like awful, like literally just on the thumbnail, and it was just I was like, stop. And then it seems like at the end of this video he teases that he's gonna be talking about Bebop Netflix. So I'm like, oh joy, I really want you to talk about that, I guess. And then all he's tweeting about is just screen caps going sigh or whatever. I'm just like, oh joy, I can't wait to not watch that. I'll talk about Bebop stuff in a second. But no, he put out this today, I think, or yesterday, about Colorful, Weird, Experimental, and Wonderful. And yes, it's a positive review. I was like, oh, thank God. Because I actually really prefer when he talks positively about these shows, because I think it's always very constructive. He's obviously bringing some of these shows that don't have much of a platform in bringing it into a positive context in this way. I think it's very additive and good content. And he's usually very good at it. And I also like the thumbnail. It's actually like really it's something. It's certainly something. But man, so it's interesting. I would say I definitely suggest checking this out, because yeah, he is just kind of giving the show the platform it wants, like where like showing off plenty of clips and examples and talking about the context and the history behind it, and who's making it and why it works that way. I really like the point he makes at the end, where this is really reminding me of why I was kind of drawn to anime at the beginning, which is it looks so different and unlike anything that we're getting in the West, which I agree. It seems very, at least from what he's seen of this one, Colorful, it seems very off kilter, bizarre. Yeah, like the kind of what they have here with Weird, Experimental, Wonderful type of thing. It's a gag etchy thing, but very bizarre and interesting. I don't know. I was very happy he covered it and talked about it, and would much prefer to see this over his take on Netflix Bebop. I'm sorry, I don't care, man. No, good, yeah, but I like this video. It was very good. KorewaEden, finally. I told him I've been meaning to talk for a bit video of his for a while. It's been a little while, but yeah, he put out the longest solo video. Like, it was pretty much just him working on it, on his channel. It was about Tolovru, and very happy that for him that it's doing well. That it was the algorithm actually liked it. It's popping off. Tolovru ruined my childhood, and it is really just talking about Tolovru in sort of a review type fashion, kind of rapid firing through some characters, talking about specific episodes, which I think were really especially helpful. Like a lot of the other videos I was talking about earlier, one of the things I felt was lacking a little was detail, giving specific things, like give an episode, describe it a little bit, and give a reason why you're bringing it up at all, type of thing. And I think Eden does a great job with the 15th episode, or 14 or 15, whatever. And like giving them some of these in detail, and also in different ways. It's not very repetitive in how he's describing each episode. Like the one about the workout, he's just kind of like talking about it himself. But then for the other episode, he's using the plot summary on Wikipedia or something to help filter through and to understand it, kind of deal. But I think Eden really succeeds here with keeping it fresh and interesting, keeping the audience engaged the whole time, which is it's a sign of a veteran YouTuber. I think it's someone that's like, you're thinking minute by minute, is the person still here? Does the person still give a shit? Are they still finding something to laugh at? Have I busted all my jokes out in the first 30 seconds or so? Because like the amount of heavy and like intensive editing that Eden does here is something that people would do mostly for the first minute or so, and then they would slow down considerably. But Eden doesn't slow down at all. I think he's constantly reinventing, while also kind of being smart with retooling some assets and kind of repurposing some things without making it feel like tedious and repetitive in that kind of. It's repetitive, but not in a tedious way. You know what I mean? Like using the thing that he made for the main character with like his face in the corner and the name and stuff. He's like, oh, that's the main character. He's linking the concept, the name of the main character, with a visual that he made. He's like, oh, remember when I showed this a couple minutes ago in the video, and things like that, and recycling it in a efficient way that the audience actually retains things, and it's not just like creative for the sake of it. I find it very efficient, consistently funny, and also brings up really great points. I just think I don't know if I thought about that. I think I've praised him in the past for being like especially insightful, more than you would expect from a creator like this, from a creator like Eden, where like it's very memey, jokey, casual, just likes anime and it's like talking about type of thing, and not a lot of them go that deep and making particular points, but like Eden actually does make these points about like, I actually thought the fan service is when it was at its worst almost, and I don't mind this. It's just the spice and that sort of thing, but there was some stuff that's kind of off color, it like makes me uncomfortable and things like that. I think that sort of honesty mixed with like real insightful, like points and things, like actually having a point to the video, right? And it's not just, oh, I wanted to make it for the sake of it. It has a direct purpose to it, but he's packing it with like the rapid fire tier list at the end, and all these sorts of things, and really carrying you through the whole video, even though it's a long video for him, right? 19 minutes is like, that's cute for some of us, but the thing is, for some of us, it's maybe a little too easy to make these big videos. Maybe it's actually more of a challenge now to make it concise, to make it as lean and only efficient information as possible, while also making it exciting and fun and like a video. You know what I mean? It's finding that balance, I think. But yeah, I think Eden did a really good job here. Yeah, it's great, really good. Bonsai Pop had a good video on Monster at last. I was very happy and looking forward to this. It came from the Under the Iron Curtain, and of course they have that very overt political slant that I don't know any other anime YouTuber that goes this hard in terms of the hard in the paint in terms of like fuck Nazis and like very overtly political and things like that. And it's warranted for Monster, really, because it's part of the subject matter, and I think they use that to their advantage. And I always really like when they did the thing with Rurouni Kenshin, where they're really going into the history of East and West Germany, and I think they skim a little bit too much to my liking. I would have wanted it to have more of a focus, or maybe it's too complex for a video, so they have to skim through it or whatever. And ultimately, I think their points about Monster are really good. The one sticking point about this video that I wasn't a fan of, I don't know. I have to look again. I don't think you gave spoilers. Connect to the internet. What do you mean I'm not connected to the internet? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they don't have a spoiler warning for Monster. And like, I've seen videos on Monster where they don't even want to spoil the antagonist. They don't even want to spoil who Johan is, right? Like, that's the level of like people trying not to talk. And maybe it's worth talking about it in these brass specific tags so you can really dig into the ideas behind it and themes and stuff, which is fine. But give a spoiler warning, especially when, or like a timestamp where they can avoid you just giving the synopsis for the entire show, like rapid fire in like a minute. And I'm like, it was kind of helpful for me because it's been a while since I've seen Monster. And I only remembered like maybe a third of the plot that you recounted, but like you just rapid fired through all of it, giving the whole. I mean, I get it. You didn't spoil the ending, like the last shot ending type of thing, which is kind of cool and whatever. But like you gave away the whole thing otherwise, and I was just like, oh, like I don't care as much because I've seen it. It's one of my favorites. But still, I was just like, that's weird. And you know, I wasn't as a fan of that personally. But maybe you do have a spoiler warning somewhere. Maybe the description, your guys' pinned comment. Yeah, no, there's no spoiler warning. I mean, I guess it's a nitpick, probably all things considered. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I mean, otherwise, I really like the talking about the morality stuff, and you guys seem to be really like in tune and understanding Monster and stuff. And again, I always really like the mask off, like we're anti-fascist, and I don't know if mask off's the right word really, but it's just sort of like very overt, more overt than a lot of people would be willing to go, I think. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a good video, really good. And I also checked out Coffee Cake's video on Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 is the best Fooly Cooly sequel, and I think it's interesting. My big sticking point with this is that like they don't really talk about Eva 3.0 plus 1.0 until like towards the end of the video, like the last fourth or so. The majority of it is bulked on kind of their experience with Fooly Cooly, and then talking about the sequels, the actual sequels of Fooly Cooly, and kind of how they don't really work, and then tying it back to Evangelion. And so that structure was just kind of like, you know, okay. I don't know. It wasn't. I wasn't expecting that personally, and also just like maybe it's because they claimed they haven't processed it yet. Maybe, I guess so. But no, I still liked the personal, especially talking about the Irish cons. That was really great. And when he said that, oh, I should talk about Irish con culture more because that was the time, I was like, I would love that. I would love that video. That'd be great. And it is very, you know, Hazel inspired, even has a Hazel cameo in it. And I found this because Hazel shared it again. And I am subscribed to Coffee Cakes. It's just that, you know, thumbnails don't do it. I don't know. Thumbnails don't do it for me. I don't know. But, you know, like but the editing and the sense of humor and things like that are incredibly Hazel inspired. So, I mean, if you like that sort of content, there's more of it, honestly. I just thought that the focus was strange a little bit. And I don't disagree with the point very much. I think it's an interesting take, especially the Tsurumaki connection, and diving into the commentary of Fooly Cooly was really smart, and I thought that was really made the video have a little more meat and not just like kind of theory bait, you know. But I enjoyed that a lot. But you know, it was a good time. I really like watching a video from Coffee Cake, honestly, and I think you guys should check it out. Yeah. Sorry, I don't have too much else to say about that. All right, and now I thought were the best videos of the week. The ones that I thought were the best videos of the week. And yeah, this first one is a very, very helpful video from Chang, talking about the Pokemon check, or how to avoid giving your audience epileptic seizures, which is like the real life thing when the event in 1997, the Porygon, red and blue flashing, and how I really like that he gave like the very particular, what is it? He gave the very particular clips, for for like from when it happened, like the news incidents, and like giving the real life context and not just talking about it on like citing from Wikipedia or something, like a surface level. It's not just surface level on this, but then giving the very explicit rules and how it works in animation, as well as giving what I really liked was that it wasn't just giving what I was expecting was just like, oh, what it shows in anime today, where with a lot of dimming and things like that. But it's actually I love that he decided to use images from 1995, or like when they broadcast these series around that time, like during the rebroadcast of like Nadia, for example, or something, which had come out in 90, but then in 97, like they had this broadcast where it almost kind of ruins the image, and almost they almost kind of like it always becomes like a still frame, and they completely scrub off a lot of the stuff that would be seizure inducing based on these particular rules. I like that the rules are very defined, and gives a good diagram and examples for those, but also like giving that like the real world, like what that turned into. And I remember seeing Pokemon look like that between like, and like seeing like the edited version versus the TV, like the original and stuff, and seeing that TV one. I remember that footage, and I remember it looking weird, how like slow it was, and that's why. And I actually had no idea, that they went back and edited those episodes in that way. That was really interesting to me too. But yeah, Gao Gaigar has some examples, and then Gundam Wing as well. And he's like, this is a particularly poor solution with Gundam Wing, where like they just kind of create a lot of after images, and it's like, oh, it just doesn't look good. But very informative, very like valuable, especially to me, where like, do my MVs cause seizures? I don't know. And then like giving these particular criteria, I'm like, oh yeah, I do. I know what you're talking. Okay, yeah, I'll try to do that from now on. You know, that was useful to me. So the utility in it is very, very impactful. So I'm very happy for that. Great video. You should check it out. A new podcast called Clearence on Creepy. And this is featuring Joe from Pause and Select, Jaden from Cineclinic, and Steve from Stevem. A nice group of three that they bounce off well together. And I was realizing, like, one of them's Canadian, one of them's Australian, and one of them's United Kingdom. So it's like the most major English-speaking countries that aren't the United States. I thought that was particularly interesting. Not, just a coincidence, I think. But yeah, I like the talk about the Loveland Frog here, and the fact that Joe is really driving the entire podcast and gives the whole, kind of narrates it almost, and then Jaden and Steven are just there to kind of like riff off and giggle at it, and just kind of react, I guess. I really appreciate that Jaden is the kind of the person that has no idea and is kind of learning about these things for the first time, and then Steven like has knowledge of these things and has this sort of background and interest, but is still kind of just laughing at it a lot of the time. Yeah, I thought it was a really good dynamic, a fun 49-minute. I liked how trim it was. It didn't feel like it went on forever or something like that, or went off topic all that much. I thought it was really polished in that way. It's a delightful surprise. I didn't expect it, and it's just something I really, really enjoyed. It was a good time. Mudan was, this was so funny. I had 2 hours to learn animating for the Trash Taste podcast. It was funny. I actually listened to this episode, but I didn't know that he had that animation thing because I listened to it on like Spotify at the time because I have like that job on the weekends and stuff, and that's why I listened to it too. So I didn't really watch it. So like that opening part, I had no idea he did that, and then and yeah, he's getting the guy who does he's kind of the one who does the most trash taste animated things and the one who's got like the most traction. I forget his name. But he does really good animations. I really like it. And I liked it was a live stream where he's kind of explaining Adobe Animate to Mudan, and he has to do it. He doesn't really do it in 2 hours, but he kind of gets there. And it was just really funny, especially the editing. I saw a comment from Eden down there, like the editing in here particularly is really funny and phenomenal, which I agree. He was on fire, dude. Whoever was doing the editing on this, really funny stuff. It was actually like, I was laughing more at the editing than I was at the content happening, which is really significant. I think it's significant, honestly, because it is one thing to be like, oh, the editing's really good, or like that edit's funny, but it's another for like them to really be on fire and having their own like, I think it's significant in this case. I think the editing was phenomenal, really funny, and the dynamic between Mudan and I'm sorry I forgot his name, but the animator there was really funny and good. I was really curious too, because like it actually made me want to try animating to try Adobe Audition. I'm pretty sure I have it because I have Adobe Cloud Suite, so I could try it. And then I was like wondering maybe if the full VOD is there and I could kind of follow along and stuff like that. I know there are probably much better tutorials on like YouTube and shit, but it honestly got me interested. It was like, wow, it is kind of that easy, or not that easy, especially for the results are a little half baked and dumb, but it's funny. I think it's really fun and cute. I just really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was really great. Emily Bushman roasting the Jujutsu Kaisen anime cafe menu. This is just like going over a Japanese cafe, different kind of menu thing that like they have like the pop-up cafes and stuff like that. They're kind of like a limited time thing, and a lot of people go them for just like getting the merchandise there. But there's some really particular foods, and she's kind of analyzing them, critiquing them, including her own personal taste, but also giving it on more of an objective level of just like, this is really technically well made for this and this reason, or what is this made of, and because I don't think about food this deeply, and she's I just kind of take it at a glance and stuff, but then she's really like zooming in on some stuff, speculating on what certain little bits are. I thought that the analysis was really sound. I just think it's a very novel idea. She does her own like the cooking things, and she's working with Crunchyroll. I think she's living in Japan right now, I think, because she was talking about it in the context of like, oh yeah, in Japan they this is rare to find bagels in Japan and things like that. So she seems to have a really intimate knowledge of their cuisine down there too, and it's not just sort of an American normie just kind of roasting me. It's really coming from it's coming from an experienced person who's not only been to these cafes before, but also is a cook themselves, and like understands the craft in a good way, and also has a particular taste, which I was happy that she wasn't shying away from either. She's like, they usually don't do salads very well, and things like that, while still being like objective, where it's like, well, this is really technically impressive. I wouldn't eat this. I hate pancakes, but this is interesting. Talking very sorry if I'm talking like that a lot. I guess I'm just sort of at a loss for words. But yeah, I really liked this one especially. I thought it was coming from a really good perspective and very unique idea. I would love to see more of it, honestly. I would definitely, I don't know if she'll ever see this, but it's sort of like, definitely make more of this. I definitely think this is really good. My stomach is getting to me, but I'm gonna keep trucking forward. New MercuryFalcon video. He's on fire, man. He's doing great stuff. I was thinking about I won't spoil it, but the man who made 80s anime, 80s, the creator of Toshihiro Hirano, really appreciate that this is, it's not a well-known guy. It's just not. He does have a good fair deal of credits and stuff. If you don't know, he's a character designer and creator for Dangayo and Icer. And that's kind of the main things he's talking about, of like what made 80s anime 80s. Megazone 23, animation director for Do You Remember Love, but worked on a lot of stuff in that time. Also directed Ray Earth, and then He's still working in the industry. He was a bit more of a for hire, just kind of doing random stuff. But then he's helming the new Baki anime for Netflix, which is really cool. But really kind of going through his entire career, going through from like it's really just a biography of the guy. And I think the opening bits where he's trying to get into the industry were especially detailed and interesting. I really appreciate the amount of research he's putting into this, and he has like people who translating these anime articles and scanning a lot of magazines and things like that. He's really digging for the actual information. He's not just kind of talking out his ass for these things, talking about different relationships he's had, not with but like professional relationships with different creators and industry people and people he admired and animators he looked up to and things like that. Like different quotes, really good stuff. I like that I like the transparency of like, I'm not focusing on his time working on this thing because he doesn't say too much about his work on this thing. So he's really taking it from his perspective and like the things that are most important to him and not just the things that he finds important or something like that. I thought that was really smart. Yeah, just really great research, really informative and entertaining the whole way through, and excellent. It's really hard to say much else about it. I think it's a very, very good video. I love what he's making. And, I'm going to put this as the best video for me because this is the video I was just sort of like, this is what I want. This is what I want to see. This is like really, I don't know. I was just really particularly happy with this one of Chris Stuckmann. And I know some people don't like Chris Stuckmann. I get it. Yeah, he's been on the internet a long time. So inevitably you're going to have, things to be scrutinous about, I suppose. There's few people who come out clean. I'd say AVGN is maybe clean, but like Chris is, I get it. A little more of a divisive person. But he's talking about Cowboy Bebop's Netflix anime. And he's kind of the Netflix live action series, I should say. And he's kind of the only take he's kind of ended discussion for me. I don't really want to care. I don't really care about other people's take. I did watch Jeff's video, and I was going to watch Tristan's video, but it was 50 minutes long, and I'm late recording this. I woke up late, and but yeah, no, I think he just kind of takes the cake for this particular. For the main point that it kind of zooms it to the top for me is the like actual like guys like he's voicing his concern about the fandom and how it's turning a bit toxic now that we have an element of now that we have something that's Cowboy Bebop that is not universally beloved. Quite the opposite, where there's some people that don't like Cowboy Bebop. Like, that's fair. But that's a very vocal minority. Now we have this property attached to it that, oh, don't avoid that one, or just sort of like is really inherent, like negative at its core, and it's really sad. I really hate seeing that and him talking about it was like, when the whole fandom agrees, it's bliss. It's the best thing. Now that we have this thing, it's becoming more toxic. And he is really he really goes into this this one aspect of how the fandom has been treating Ed in the live action adaptation, which I was feeling the exact same way. And yeah, this is the actor's first credit. This is their first time in a role, and they're underage, and they were like really like they were only in it for 40 seconds of the last episode, and people like I appreciated Jeff saying that like we should not judge the whole. There was a tweet going around like, don't watch Cowboy Bebop, the live action thing, because it has the scene at the end. But like her face being plastered on everywhere, like that face, that one fucking screen grab being memed to fucking death, I guess. It's really unsavory. The fact that this is their first role and they were really excited about it, and they're not of age to be that like, oh, they can take it. And I like the point where he's like, if they make a second season and she's in it for the majority of it and it still stinks, fine, go out, have at it, whatever. But he's like, pump the brakes on this, please, because it's not cool. I agree, it sucks. I kind of hate the discourse around this series more than I would ever potentially hate the series itself, right? But Bebop's one of my favorites as well, but I'm not really interested in watching the live action series because I know I'm not going to like it. The moment I start watching that show, I'm just going to be like, I'd rather watch the anime. But a lot of people that I've seen, they just watched the anime first and then watched the live action one. So now they don't have that. So now they're just like, wow, I'm just making myself miserable. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? That's just my take. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I guess I've like amassed enough to have an idea of what. There seems to be a good consensus here, honestly. But like, and Chris is not glowingly praising about this show. I think he's very even-handed and giving credit where it's due, and also coming from the perspective of someone that's made something that is a filmmaker, you know, and understands the difficulties of these things and has sympathy for it. And he says in the video also that like he's not a saint, you know, he's not like trying to be holier than thou because he's burnt merchandise of Dragon Ball Z on camera and stuff because of, you know, and raging about DBZ evolution. But I really like that he ended this whereas like he's seen some people say that this is as bad as DBZ evolution, and he's like, I would challenge you to go back and watch that film. It's on Amazon Prime right now. Like, actually go and try to watch that compared to this Bebop thing, because it's like it really is not that bad compared to what it could, like how bad they can be. I guess it's just the astronomical high standards that people have for this. It's just trying to adapt. It's literally like trying to adapt a 10 out of 10 property. I don't know why people. I don't know why they. I personally don't know why they thought it was a good idea. I don't know, but again, I don't try to have like an actual opinion on it or something like that. But it's just not Bebop. I don't know, but yeah, I think Chris just has the most succinct, even-handed, rational take that I would not want anybody to have, and I want that this guy. I just like to move on. I'm actually really happy that Bebop live action moved on, because we just moved on from High Guardian Spice like that, like real immediately, and now we just have to find something else. We just have to find something else, fellas, and you know, it's like I've heard great things about Arcane. Like Arcane's like a lot of people are loving Arcane, so it's like, let's just talk about that, guys. Come on. Please stop. I don't know. I'm just sick of it personally. But yeah, that's the best take. This is my opinion. Yeah, that'll do it for this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. You guys are great. You have a great week. Yo, peace.